There's Debbie. Good afternoon. Yes. All right, folks, let's do a quick audio check. I think we should be okay, but we always like to double check, verify, do a little audio check. I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be fine, but you never know. Yes. Audio on X is good. Yep. Now, I'm willing to bet the audio on YouTube is also okay. That's would be my guess. Yes. All right, good.
I emphasize again, it is free to join my community. The stocks I share are
It's
also
an ad.
the techniques and strategies I teach are also.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
It's an ad.
Yep. All right, and the YouTube sound is good as well. All right, folks, we are live. Excuse me. We will begin in just 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Let me just check that. Okay, there's that. Okay, then we'll check our Facebook crew, which certainly would seem to be yes. And we're live on this Monday. Ice war breaking out. Yep. I think the audio here. Yes. Audio is fine. Live on this Monday. Let me also just check. Folks, again, in just 3 minutes, we're going to be live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and most importantly, AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. So there's that. Now, last night, I need to admittedly check the weather forecast. I actually was headed out last night, unaware that severe thunderstorms were headed our way. I didn't know that. I know, I need to know that. Saturday night was big. Saturday night, we were the only ones that had that. There was a shooting in Pawtucket. I was very happy about that. And we located it on our own, since Eric at the command center had the night off. Okay. Okay, Roger says we're ready to go. Okay. Now, folks, we will bring you the latest. We do plan on being out later. Tomorrow afternoon, 4:30, we're going to do live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Tomorrow at 4:30, because that juror has to be in court tomorrow. I'm not going to go to that. I just have other things going on. You know, court ties up a lot of time, and it's a drag being in court. I've spent a lot of time in court. We're going to wait. I'll be back at some point. But all right, we're going to, but we will be out tonight, Road Patrol Live. Folks, remember, you're missing out. There was Saturday night. We were the only ones there. We heard someone showed up at Fatima Hospital with a gunshot wound. That person, as far as I know, critical condition. We were there. And then another vehicle. So police, North Providence police were going through that vehicle. And then the gang members affiliated with that person, gang member out of Pawtucket, they were also then next to me. We were the only ones that had that story Saturday night. We were the first ones on it yesterday. Now you see the TV stations, Channel 10, Channel 12, saying there was a shooting in Channel 6, shooting in Pawtucket, blah, blah, blah. So they were transported to Rhode Island Hospital. Now, I don't know exactly when that happened, by the way, but my point is we were right there on the scene. There was no other media there. There was no other media there. They don't follow it like that. All right, we shall begin. 106. Good afternoon. Yes, this is The John DePietro Show. Right now, we are live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. You can always listen online at the website, depetro.com. Right now, also, during this time, we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're also live on X. This portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They're having a fantastic year, great season. I'm so happy for them. Folks, they grinded. They're open 7 days a week. Stop it and see them. Steve and Debbie and Junior and Lauren and Byron. They have fresh vegetables, delicious, fresh, homegrown corn, nothing like summer corn. They also have other fresh vegetables, great tomatoes, peaches. And on top of that, they're a full-scale nursery. So they have tropical mandevillas, hibiscus plants. Nancy McCormick loves it there, and Jane Rice. Large selection of beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs. Stop it and see them. They're open 7 days a week. They grind it. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, if you check on, if you're listening or watching right now, and if you were to log on to depetro.com, our website, you will see we have Providence ice-free defense zones. We're the only ones. I was right up there. And then film it, and we have the most on that, and I have an update on that. Also, Friday night, there was a great night Friday night. We rode along with the Westerly Police. Great night with Sergeant Johnson. We also have the video. ICE nabbed that MS-13 gang member in Silver Lake, and then a Providence police body cam, and a lot more. Folks, it's all on the website, depetro.com, which is brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Now, Elizabeth said, who is that propane company that you mentioned? We need propane. I want to go with the company you're mentioning. Thank you, Elizabeth. Propane Plus. Call them today, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus. Now, Elizabeth can call. Anyone can call. Rhode Island or Massachusetts, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus, always online, 24/7 available to you at propaneplus.com. So coming up, and we will be talking with Justin Katz, managing editor of anchorrising.com, and we'll do our segment, Politics This Week, and we will be out with Road Patrol Live later. Now, again, we have moved into subscription only. Folks, it's 75 cents. There's nothing to watch on TV. I have so many different people. As a matter of fact, every day people ask me, no, wait a minute, how can I watch this? How can I watch it live? We have a lot of people watching it then on replay, but the question is, how can you watch it live? And just become a subscriber. Now, we only do Facebook for Road Patrol Live. I've done both Facebook and YouTube, but you can't zoom in with the app that is available. And sometimes the audio quality is a little off. Now, oftentimes, like this past Saturday night, we loaded that onto YouTube, so the YouTube people can watch it. But YouTube, tomorrow at 4:30, we're going to be live, X, Facebook, and YouTube, talking about this grand juror federal investigation. And again, legitimate sources have it tied to the Reed case, but let's see how this plays out tomorrow. Now, I want to touch on this business. Tom Homan gave a very fiery press conference, and they're going to start to up the ante regards to ICE. And folks, God bless me, the goodness, the thing that that stands out is, and I get that some people, they don't fully pay attention, or, you know, on Saturday night, if you were watching, we were live in front of one of the restaurants. We're going to start to list several of them. I've had people that in other parts of the state that are reaching out saying, where are these restaurants? And we want to list them. And one of the people that reached out to me, I said, all right, I'll show you some of the ones that have them. Meet me in Oneyville. What do you think the reply was? Well, where's Zonyville? I said, you want to partner with me? Yes, we want to partner with you. All right. I said, all right, meet me in Silver Lake and I'll show you some of the ones that happen. Oh, where's Silver Lake? How are you going to partner with me and help me if you don't even know where Zonyville is or Silver Lake is? We want to partner with you. Listen, Holman is dropping the gauntlet. And again, for those, if you log on to DePietro.com, I have, and we're going to make a list. And I also want to address, because some people either intentionally or they're just not that bright. But on the sign, it says, we defend immigrants here. This business is a defense zone. We pledge to protect and support those targeted by ICE or other enforcement actions. And then they have a phone number. If you see ICE, call, and they have a phone number. Now, I have that in English and Spanish. So I've had people saying and posting, well, why would that be a problem? They're just saying they want to protect. No, you can't live in a bubble. This isn't about immigrants. This is in relation to what happened a week ago when Ivan, and let me just show the sign that we're talking about. So, okay, so there it is. That's what the front looks. And you can see on the left is English and on the right is in Spanish. And what they're basically saying is they will harbor fugitives. So people say, no, it just says, immigrant, like how they're stupid and they think we're stupid. That's not what this is about. This is in relation to what happened where you had the individual who is an MS-13 gang member. There he is, MS-13 gang member distributing fentanyl. As a result of that, people were upset. This guy, right on the Hartford Avenue, Silver Lake area, Ivan, and there's that Representative David Morales, Silver Lake neighborhood, ICE raided a family home. Not true. Detained one of our neighbors. He's an MS-13 gang member distributing fentanyl. So you can't have it both ways. So then people, they're putting these signs up. So what they're basically trying to say to Ivan is that if he's being chased, he should run into the businesses that have these signs and will protect you from ICE. But folks, what they're leaving out of the equation, and again, people, oh, it doesn't say that. It says they're defending immigrants. What's wrong with that? Blah, blah. That's not what's really about. What it's really about is who is it that ICE is going after? What these businesses are basically saying is they will harbor fugitives. And what are they fugitives of? Homicide. This guy's an MS-13 gang member. These signs that are popping up in businesses, they're saying that they will harbor fugitives that are, you have pedophiles, you have people that have either committed murder or accused of murder, drug dealers, dangerous, violent felons. I mean, pick the crime. Who does ICE target? People that have committed homicides, people that have committed violent acts, drug dealers, pedophiles. So these businesses that are popping up, or not the business, the signs, what they're basically saying is if you're being pursued by ICE, you're an MS-13 gang member, you are a gang member from, pick a country, Venezuela, Honduras. If they're chasing you, come in here and we won't let them take you. That's what it is. Governor McKee has been silent on it. The mayor has been silent on it. The Providence Greater Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce of Providence. Well, that's up to the businesses. That's not up to the businesses. Don't you understand? The sign says law enforcement. So now that means if you're being chased by the police, you run in there. They don't have any standing to do that, by the way. See, they think they're setting up these, what is this? ICE-free zones? Did you hear what Tom Holman said? One of the states where they're going to start to up enforcement is Rhode Island. And I don't blame him, by the way. And I'll tell you why. And folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by, hey, call Corey, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Get your garage epoxied. They do it all. They can epoxy your garage, line striping of a parking lot. Make sure that you're compliant. Contact Corey. They epoxy garages and patios. Makes a huge difference for your garage or patio. Sport court resurfacing, pickleball, tennis court, basketball court, they do it all. Or your parking lot with line striping. They'll do it. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call Corey. Free estimate. They have great social media. 401-283-9815. You want to improve your home, get your garage epoxied or your patio. Decorative concrete flooring. It looks fantastic. What a huge difference. Where do you see how good it looks? 401-283-9815. I received an email from Ron that said that they had their garage epoxied. And it came out so good that now when they have, sometimes he'll have family stay over, the people are like, no, I'll stay in the garage. This floor is beautiful. For folks, 401-283-9815. But let's just be very clear. That's what we're talking about. That's what they're talking about. The sign, excuse me, the sign says it clearly. This is all in relation to what happened with Ivan, the MS-13 gang member. What were they supposed to do? You have an MS-13 gang member who's wanted in his home country. He's hiding in Silver Lake in Providence, distributing fentanyl. He was arrested. They should have held him. Because of Governor McKee, they released him. ICE had to go into the neighborhood to get him. As a result of that, these signs pop up. See, they try to say, because I posted it, I did a video of it and I posted on Instagram, this business is a defense zone. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. This is the United States of America. There's no such thing. We will protect and support those targeted by ICE or other law enforcement actions. So Providence Police, they're trying to get a pedophile. They're trying to go after someone. The pedophile runs in here and these businesses will defend them. Notice the local media, they don't even mention that. Now, I am seeking, if you have information where these are, to, get in touch. And we want to develop a map. I also want to be very clear. I know that some people are saying, well, we're not going to, well, you don't visit these businesses anyway. But that's not what this is about. If anything, it's probably building up their business in a lot of those areas. But I want to touch on this David Doucette. If you know him, I'd like to interview him. He served 25 years in the Rhode Island State Police, retired as a detective lieutenant, and he's being championed because he wrote this piece for the Providence Journal. I'd like to interview him. If you know him or know how I can reach him, have him contact me, or I'll contact him. Just a way to contact him. I don't know if I have ever met him or anything like that, but I'd like to interview him about his piece. I disagree with it. And I noticed like certain people like Kathy Gregg of the Providence Journal, look at this, and Enrique Sanchez and Marat, like they're all the progressives are like, look at that. Look at this trooper saying it. I'm going to tell you where I disagree with him, by the way. Folks, remember, if you ever have any damage to your roof, Roofco Rhode Island, one of the ways that you can, I can take that down. One of the ways that you can improve your the value of your property, your home or your business is a brand new roof. Roofco Rhode Island, they'll give you a free quote, 401-868-7149, 401-868-7149. Roofco Rhode Island, high quality roof, free estimate. Maybe you've had wind damage. Do you have a leaky roof? Roofco Rhode Island, missing, lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter, damaged chimney flashing. Give them a call, free estimate. Hey, it's very possible that you're covered insurance wise. Roofco Rhode Island, 401-868-7149, and they'll cover the entire cost of it. Folks, this portion of our program, I also want to remind you about Watson Materials. What a great job they do. Makes a huge difference for the outside of your home or property. South County Trail. Call Sean. Request a quote. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. Look for them on Facebook. What a difference you're outside. It's like having additional rooms outside your property. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, decorative stone. Watson Materials. Looks beautiful. Call them, request a quote, 401-885-0600. So this David Doucette, and again, I'm not trying to be confrontational. I may have met him in the past. I don't know. He wrote a piece for the Providence Journal that a lot of people, the progressives and others are cheering on. He served 25 years in the Rhode Island State Police, retiring as a detective lieutenant. David Doucette. He wrote as David A. Doucette. As law enforcement officers, we have all faced threats of various types during our career. So the fear of threat is a non-starter. So he writes, so to those agents who do choose to hide their face, this is all about ICE hiding their face. You're not the secret police. This is the United States of America. We don't have secret police here. We don't need, nor do we want secret police here. And as we are beginning to witness, I don't believe this country will accept having secret police. And to those who dressed in the camouflage battle fatigues of our military, that uniform requires both a name tape bearing the name of the wearer as well as branch tape identifying the branch of service the wearer. Wear both. Well, I want to just say this. Now, again, I don't know him, and I'll give him a chance. Again, this is Rhode Island State Police, who obviously, I have no beef with them. They enjoy a good reputation. But this business of secret police, well, that's not accurate. What about many members of law enforcement that work undercover? Many times, whether it's state police, FBI, regular police branches, they work undercover. I've interviewed people that have worked undercover. I've interviewed people that worked undercover. They went undercover in a motorcycle gang. That's a form of secret police. The members of the motorcycle gang thought they were dealing with just some biker. You have the whole thing, and he's making. I saw that Joe Spatone, whatever his name is, Donnie Brasco. He's been making the rounds, and he was on with Joe Rogan recently, and I mean they would never do that now, but the amount of time and energy he went undercover with one of the New York crime families, that he was giving them a fake name. That's not who he was. So this business of secret police, that's not what it is. So he was a member of the Rhode Island State Police. He wasn't dealing with doxing. He wasn't dealing with people identifying who someone is. Do you realize that what he doesn't understand, that's why I'd like to talk to him, I disagree with him, is this business of it doesn't have to do with the United States of America. It has to do with the danger effect. That right now, what if local, let's keep it local for a moment. What if, I'll just pick a district. Let's say Rhode Island State Police. Let's say Rhode Island State Police suddenly had to do some kind of work and their faces were being identified on social media, where they live, who their families are. How would he feel then? When he says they've always faced threats, but I don't think he understands the threats that many of these ICE officers have gone through. So I understand this element of why are they hiding their faces? But this isn't, if you had members, let's just say, I'll say East Providence. You had members of East Providence Police. Well, what if suddenly their names were being splashed on social media? Where they live was being splashed on social media. Pictures of their family members were being splashed on social media. So their address, what they look like, what they drive, who their spouse is, who their children are, where their children attend school. Would David Doucette still feel that way? This business of the threat, Rhode Island State Police, how much, they don't, all due respect, but they don't face the threats that Providence faces. They don't face the threats that Pawtucket police face. They don't face the threats that Central Falls police. Or let's go into Massachusetts. Brockton. Would you say Rhode Island State Police face the same challenges as the police in Brockton? Or Boston police that have to go into Roxbury? Or parts of Dorchester? Mattapan? Jamaica Plain? Do you think it's all parallel? I don't think former trooper David Doucette, and they're all championing this. What is the purpose? Why do they care? Thank you, Truth Over Bias. Why do they care that certain members? It's you have to look at what led to that. What was the cause of that? Why did they start doing that? They started doing it because members of ICE that were out there conducting raids and investigating people and detaining and arresting people, they started having it's really bad in California. California, if you listen to the radio show, and again, folks, we start at 11, and we're live on the radio right now. But there were people. Look at how these people. By the way, the reps that defended this guy Ivan, they haven't said, "Oh, on second thought, I guess that was the right move." Do you understand? Not only is he an illegal, he's an MS-13 gang member who's arrested for distributing fentanyl. And that's an elected rep from Rhode Island. And they're still saying and identifying him as a neighbor. Do you notice they never apologize? They never say, in hindsight, I guess I was wrong about that. In hindsight, gee, I think I was wrong to say they shouldn't have gotten him. When you have, how about there was a Guatemalan, illegal Guatemalan pedophile. They arrested him in Portsmouth. ICE did. He was online trying to meet young 12 and 13-year-old boys in the Portsmouth Middletown area. So you're saying he runs into one of your stores where you have this stupid sign up, and then what? He's protected from law enforcement? Is that what this is? The autonomous zones? Do you remember when they did this in Seattle 5 years ago? It was a disaster. There was a murder. There was a rape. There was all kinds of violent acts. That's not how we operate. How come no one is speaking, other than me, no one is speaking out about this? I mean elected officials. McKee won't say a word. Why do they want a pedophile loose? Why do they want a drug dealer loose? So what that sign is saying is you'll harbor a fugitive. If you're a fugitive of justice, because it also says all law enforcement, run in here. What are you going to protect him, hide him in the back room? This is insanity, and no one is saying anything. But that David Doucette, again, I'd like to have a conversation with him. Maybe he doesn't want to. He penned a piece for the Providence Journal. Maybe, for all I know, I have no idea if he's making the rounds and he's been on talk shows that are, that's right, no such thing as secret police. It's not even accurate. I know of someone who was a detective with the Rhode Island State Police. He went undercover with a motorcycle gang, with a biker gang. And they thought he was, a rough guy, and whatever it leads to. Many times that's how they catch some of these individuals, by the way, is there's someone looking to buy a weapon, or someone that wants a hitman, or the explosives. And many times the way that they're caught is law enforcement go undercover. How do you think they catch a lot of these child predators? How do you think they catch a lot of these child predators? They pose as a young male or a young female. So in essence, they're secret police. They're not identifying for the predator who thinks they're talking to a young boy or girl. So David Doucette, they're all championing this. Oh yeah, well, that's right. So I guess we shouldn't have any undercover police as well. I don't understand. You were in law enforcement. Don't compare this to running traffic stops on 95. Okay? Like, let's, this is where I get you're retired now, but sometimes better to remain silent. So, look at some of the footage of that ICE is dealing with in California. When you can deal with that, when you can deal with your picture online, and that of your spouse, and your children, and where you live, and what your spouse drives. So when you can deal with that, and instead they cover their face and wear a mask. They're still authorized. Hey, many of you that watch Road Patrol Live, that apparently David Doucette doesn't see, how many times we're in pick a place, Chad Brown, Salmon Street, Hartford Avenue, they're all wearing masks. They're all wearing masks. How many times when I'm out and we're filming a scene, they're all wearing masks. They have the very thin kind. It's like you used to just be the ski mask. Now they all wear. How many times when I'm riding around and then we see them riding along and they have that. All right, folks, it's time for Politics This Week with Justin Katz. Before we do that, this portion of the program is brought to you by ServPro. Call them today. When disaster strikes, call ServPro of Rhode Island today. Call them at 401-941-5500. 401-941-5500. When disaster strikes, ServPro of Providence. Maybe it's fire damage, water damage, storm recovery. Call them 401-941-5500. They are another one that I share their social media. But ServPro of Providence, then they're available 24/7. All right, folks, let's bring him on. He is hold on one moment, because I see him. Okay. No. There we go. Okay. Managing editor of AnchorRising.com. It is our friend Justin Katz. Good afternoon, Justin.
Good afternoon, John. Great to be with you.
Okay. There we go. Justin, let's start your reaction last week. It even caught national attention. Representative Enrique Sanchez, this whole business, high profile, social media, calling ICE Nazi Gestapo thugs, all because they ventured into, let me just back up for people to understand. Because he was released, this Ivan, who's an MS-13 gang member, arrested for dealing fentanyl, ICE places a detainer on him. A Rhode Island judge, because Governor McKee won't reverse what Chafee did in 2014, they release him. So now ICE has to go into the neighborhood. They're trying to apprehend him. He's trying to get away from them. He crashes his car, runs into a house. They chase him, get him. Providence police show up because there was a car accident. And there's a mob gathering outside. And Providence police do what police are supposed to do. Keep down an unruly mob and try to keep order. And ICE does their job. They remove him. And then it sets off these reps all going after the police and ICE. I want to hear some of your thoughts on Enrique Sanchez.
Well, there's a whole lot there. It's hard to not come to the conclusion that these kind of conflicts are exactly what Democrat politicians in Rhode Island want. I mean, when you release these people into the criminals into the public, they run away from ICE, they cause a scene, they cause accidents, they're police, they're mobs. We're also learning from other stories about businesses that are putting out signs. Connected with that is a whole network of activists who have they say 1,000 people they message to show up whenever ICE is spotted. So that creates this dangerous environment to apprehend illegal immigrants. That's the environment we're living in, and the Providence certainly has encouraged that with this idea that it's scandalous for Providence police to be anywhere in the area when there's something like this going on. But what I found telling about Sanchez in particular, this is an MS-13 gang member who was taken into custody, and my understanding is that one of the reasons it's gotten so much play is Bill McGowan from Fox News has actually come under threat in his family from MS-13, and here's Sanchez calling the police Nazis. It shows you the world that these left-wingers, the progressives and socialists in Providence and elsewhere, they kind of live in this world where that's just common talk. And we, it's just like the police officer had a op-ed in the Providence Journal talking about secret police. This is the world they're stewing in, and it sounds rational to them, and it's not rational. And I think it's time for a little bit more sanity to be asserted around here.
You know, Justin, also excellent points, by the way. And I also want to point out, I don't hear the media pointing out that it also says any law enforcement. So what they're basically, these are the defund the police crowd. This is what they're basically saying. They're willing to harbor a fugitive, that if, you know, someone is wanted, for whatever reason, I'm not sure what happened with Justin. Okay, we'll get him back. All right, there he is. All right, well, we lost his, Justin, for whatever reason, we lost your video, but we can still see, I believe, audio. I'm not sure exactly what happened.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, you're there. We can hear you, but not see you. I'm not sure what happened. There's a line over your, there you go. Okay, and we're back.
Sorry about that.
But Justin, it says law enforcement, and just so people should be clear, and of course, I don't think, my opinion, local media did enough to really flesh this out. But what they're basically saying is if you have a pedophile and ICE is after a pedophile, these businesses are saying, run in here and we're not going to let ICE enter. But on top of that, it says, and I have the pictures up, I was in front of the business on Saturday night, any law enforcement, they're willing to harbor a pedophile, a murderer, a rapist. They're trying to say these are like autonomous zones. Do you remember 5 years ago, Seattle tried the autonomous zone. It was 1 square mile. It was a disaster. They had a murder, they had rapes, they had all kinds of destruction. So in my opinion, not only the city council president of Providence, that was embarrassing. She was like, we want to treat this as a never again moment. That police, that they're getting rid of an MS-13 gang member who's pumping out fentanyl, who's not even supposed to be here. I just found, in my opinion, the media coverage of this, I thought, was really lacking.
Oh, certainly. And you know, there's a whole, it's all in how you frame the story. I mean, if you look at it, you've got the city government, you've got activist organizations working against ICE, trying to send mobs to follow them around Providence. You've got businesses promising to harbor criminals. It really starts to sound insurgent-like, you know, kind of a organizational opposition to due process and the rule of law, which, you know, I'm a revolutionary at heart. I'm not completely against that sort of approach, but that's how it ought to be framed. We ought to be looking at this as an activist, probably funded group, and it ought to be investigated by the news media rather than treated like grassroots, good faith volunteers who are just trying to do something good, all shucks, for the families of Providence. That's the presentation we get, and it's not what the story is or should be, not how it's presented.
You know, folks, and I want people to understand, Justin makes a very good point about these activists. Recently, Justin, on Douglas, I think it was Douglas Avenue, Admiral Street, somewhere along there, there was a raid, and they went after, it was inside of a car wash. Now, it had nothing to do with immigration, and these weren't ICE officials. All of a sudden, because of these activists waiting for the phone call, all these people started showing up on the sidewalk outside. This had nothing to do with immigration. And they were just undercover officers. But to your point, what people need to understand, and I don't think it's framed enough by the media, these are activists, and they're waiting for an opportunity to kick into action, whether or not it fits their criteria or not.
Certainly, and it's ripe for abuse. Anytime once the progressives have this lever, they'll keep pulling it to get people to show up at different places, to cause trouble, to disrupt just the way of life. I mean, we've seen these same kind of groups of activists wanting to be able to block highways, for example, as a method of expressing their political opinions. This is what we'll see, and it really does become criminal activity, and it creates the problem. You know, I worry, and we've talked before about. You have these sanctuary policies. It's only one incident away from some catastrophe where something, because of these policies, ends up killing a child or a family. Yep. That's where you end up going. And I don't think our elected officials really understand the gravity of what they're doing and the irresponsibility of their rhetoric.
My problem with, and I'm just going to single out, like Channel 10, for example. So they got Enrique Sanchez, and they basically just give him a platform. There's no pushback or anything. They don't point out. He just reiterates they're Gestapo, Nazi thugs. they don't belong here. It's the community and the neighborhood. They don't point out this guy's a wanted gang member. They don't point out he could have killed someone as he was racing to get away from ICE and crashed in. They certainly don't. No one puts that I saw a microphone in front of Governor McKee. Why are you allowing this? There's no pushback on the narrative. Instead, you just have Providence officials kind of running for cover on this. So final word on this, Justin, I think, and you have, if anything, we're learning with some of these spending bills, the amount of money that's going to be pumped into ICE, it's going to expand. There's going to be more of it, not less.
Yeah, and just before I came on, I saw the the border czar, as they call him, Tom Homan, saying sanctuary cities are our number one priority. That's going to increase around here. And that ought to be part of the question, ought not just be, well, how are you defending against the federal administration, but Providence, with your massive tax increase, how can you afford to keep pushing back? And is it worth making the people of Providence and Rhode Island pay for your politics? That's a question that ought to be asked by Channel 10 and all the rest, and it just isn't being asked.
Now, Justin, and again, folks, our segment is Politics This Week. With us is Justin Katz, managing editor, anchorrising.com. I also sent you the story, Rhode Island public media expected to lose $1 million from federal cuts. That has to do with Rhode Island PBS and so forth. As far as I'm concerned, I don't in any way have a problem with this, because if anything, I'm not sure. I don't know why they have to get the money in the first place. Let them compete with everyone else. There's nothing remotely. They don't argue both sides. They only keep one narrative going with some of the local programming they have. So any thoughts to the reaction that public, I think it's both television and radio, are going to receive cuts with this new spending bill?
Well, for one thing, they brought it on themselves. You can maybe make a case for a public news network, radio, TV, whatever, if they were if they were like C-SPAN or something. They were the most credible, even-handed media outlet out there. They're not. They're left wing, and there's so many examples of this during COVID, during elections, where they wouldn't publish, talk about the Hunter Biden laptop, or they wouldn't cover COVID being released escaped from a lab in China. They just wouldn't cover that. It's propaganda. And even locally, we have surveys the university's political departments have conducted. So Salve Regina conducted a survey of Rhode Islanders and found that NPR is the number one news source for Democrats. It's not even close. It barely registers among Republicans and independents. And then you've got URI poll finding that among all listeners of NPR, are a majority will pay to hear it. So you've got a left-wing news outlet whose listeners will pay for it. They don't need or deserve public subsidies. And as much as I'm friendly with Ian Donis and I like some of his work, they don't deserve that kind of a subsidy unless Anchor Rising or you are going to get a subsidy to counterbalance it.
100%. No, I agree with you. And on top of that, listen, I've been friendly with Jim Hummel for 25 years, but he's an anti-Trump guy and he hates Trump. And so therefore you can't say that the one local show. No, again, granted, I don't really watch that stuff anymore. I think they even have like a nightly show of some kind, but I just don't think it comes into play. Now, Justin, I also want to get your thought. This story where you have the President Trump, DOJ seek information about the Rhode Island voter rolls ahead of the midterm elections. What really stands out to me is right out of the box, Greg Amore, who is the Rhode Island Secretary of State, he immediately goes into partisan politics. And what I mean by that is instead of, for instance, in my mind, instead of saying, hey, if there's a way that they could help us root out any fraud, any people that may be on our voter rolls, hey, I'm all for it, have at it. Instead, his knee-jerk reaction of him and his staff is to, this is, 2020 and the president, keeps pushing the myth that he won the election. You and I both know the Matos scandal unveiled that how they can manipulate the signatures, and those are signatures handed in. Mail ballots now have no notary. There's no paper trail for mail ballots in Rhode Island. What, you tell me why this knee-jerk reaction, immediately go to partisan politics and attack when, hey, what would be the harm if they could help clean up our voter rolls if there's nothing there to see?
Yeah, and he was bragging that they hadn't even called back to schedule the meeting. And you've got
Yeah.
Peter Nerona as well, the Attorney General, out there promising to spend our taxpayer dollars to fight back and resist. The obvious thing to do would be, yeah, we're going to work with them. We want secure voting. We want everybody to have confidence. But they go into this, and I just suspect that there's been kind of a message permeated out among Democrats, especially elected officials, that this is the party line. This is what we have to say. We're creating this false narrative about Donald Trump and how it's all about relitigating 2020. I wonder, because just last week we have pretty damning evidence out of Tulsi Gabbard's office in Washington that President Obama was behind Russiagate, that whole thing, in order to undermine confidence in our elections. So once this starts to get going, I wonder how long they're going to be able to keep perpetuating these talking points. But really, in Rhode Island, it starts to feel suspicious. Oh, we've got nothing to hide, but we're not going to even talk to them. And it makes you wonder, what's in there? What do they know about? Why are they hiding? They're still hiding birthdays of voters from anybody who requests date information. Why is it so secretive? And you start to suspect. And maybe it's because they know they've created a perfect system for fraud.
It is, Justin. And I try to, and you and I talk each week, and I've been very clear. I don't believe Rhode Island has legitimate elections. It has nothing to do with 2020, has nothing to do with President Trump. I believe, and I've said numerous times to you and others, the Rhode Island Republican Party missed a golden opportunity during that special election for Cicilline's congressional seat when Lieutenant Governor Matos got caught up in the signature scandal. That was a pivotal moment that I believe the Republican Party should have blown that up and said, we need reform. We need to be in line with other states. To me, as I have said to you numerous times, the whole McKee strategy, why would a guy with 19% approval rating, why would he be running for re-election? What would lead him to believe that he can get 51%? To me, it's all because of the ballot harvesting. So to me, I thought that was a snide remark by someone who, to me, Secretary of State, you're supposed to be nonpartisan. Out of the box, they just take a swing. They try to frame it a certain way, anti-Trump. This has to do with 2020, and they're not addressing the real question, which is, and as I have said repeatedly, I do not think the state does legitimate elections. It has nothing to do with President Trump. Folks, it's time for Katz's Corner. This is a story that Justin Katz has found. And what have you found for us this week, Justin?
Well, on Anchor Rising, we dug into a bit of this claim that 50,000 Rhode Islanders are going to lose health care because of federal restrictions on Medicaid. It turns out not to be true. About 26,000 of those are going to be people who won't sign up in the future because they're working and they're not eligible. And another 20,000 are projections from Health Source of Rhode Island that they think they might lose in the future, which could be double counting. So that's worth a look. This is how they spin in order to scare people that any Republican policy to kind of scale back the welfare state that we rely on in Rhode Island for our government subsidies, that's going to harm people. And it's simply not true, and the news media ought to know better.
They do. And it's funny, and they just repeat that figure of 50,000. Folks, again, check out a lot on anchorrising.com. He is Justin Katz, our segment Politics This Week. Justin, great job as always, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, John. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, folks, there it is. Justin Katz in our segment Politics This Week on the John DePietro Show. This portion of our program, I want to remind you, if you're thinking, have you been thinking, I should say, of maybe it's time to redo the kitchen or redo a bathroom? Arch Design Builders. Call them today, 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124, Arch Design Builders. Are you thinking of redoing your kitchen, or maybe a bathroom, or maybe your basement, or maybe you'd like to add a deck, or you have a special project? Sometimes people like to open up their living space or close up their living space. Arch Design Builders. Take advantage, free consultation. Set up the meeting with my friends, Ed and Roxanne at Arch Design Builders. 218-9707. Arch Design Builders. Family business. They prioritize integrity, quality for your custom build and remodel. Arch, set up the free meeting. Ed and Roxanne, let them do their thing. Let's dream. Let's look at the space. 401-218-9707. Arch Design Builders. Well, folks, again, good afternoon. Obviously, I enjoy talking with Justin. There was also, I will have that sound. I meant to post the sound of the Providence City Council President, Rachel Miller, who called. There wasn't an ICE raid. It wasn't an ICE raid. It was someone that ICE wanted to detain and wanted to apprehend and should apprehend, by the way. So it's not just a typical criminal. It's an MS-13 gang member who's in our country illegally. Do you understand? He is here from Honduras pumping out fentanyl. Why would we want him here? Why are elected officials calling him a neighbor? Justin's also right. There's a group and they have a hotline. And if they think there's any presence of ICE, they show up, they try to interfere. They encourage people to call this hotline and say you have people like that. You're talking about anarchy. There's no such thing. Oh, in my business, police aren't allowed to enter. According to who? What are you talking about? Why is this allowed? I believe this is going to continue to be a problem, not only in the city of Providence, but other areas as well. And they certainly don't help themselves with these businesses that are posting that. That's not going to stand up. But I recognize that clearly, we approach it differently than a lot of the other local media. Many of you know. What's the difference? I'm in those areas. I hate to say it, but literally every night. It's true. When we're out, we'll be out tonight. I will be in Silver Lake. I'm not bragging. I'll be in Odeyville. How many of you watch? I'm in those neighborhoods. And the city of Providence, you're talking about anarchy. But I just don't think it's being framed properly by our local press. They're not framing it in the proper manner, which is they're basically offering to harbor fugitives. And Tom Holman is saying sanctuary cities are our priority. Folks, remember, Governor McKee, part of his reelection bid in his ad is to support illegals over Rhode Islanders, as a matter of fact. The other thing that can't be denied is how right now, do you understand, they're making a concerted effort to destroy the state with all this low-income housing. Low-income housing brings crime. We want to spread out the crime. That's what they're basically saying at the Rhode Island State House. We want to have crime in all the different cities and towns. And we're going to do that by putting in more low-income government housing. Spread it out. We want to take all these gang members from Providence, Pawtucket, and Central Falls, and we want to put them in Warwick. We want to put them in Cranston. We want to put them, they are absolutely relocating so many illegals and gang members into North Kingstown. North Kingstown, watch what NK is going to be like in 5 years. I spoke with a member of the North Kingstown police over the weekend. Said we can't believe the calls we're getting. And when we show up there, who's like suddenly living there now? North Kingstown was never like that. Folks, do you see that's the McKee magic. Spread it all over. Probably keep them out of Cumberland, but spread it all over. This portion of our program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving. Now listen, if you're thinking of getting your driveway paved, J. Perry Paving, free estimate, any project. Have you thought about, it makes a big difference. Get your driveway paved. Maybe someone on your street or your neighbor wants to also get their driveway paved. J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. And as I, have told you, no one offers a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. So maybe your mom is a veteran, or your dad, or your grandmother, your grandfather, your son or daughter, J. Perry Paving. Give them a call, free estimate, 401-732-1730, and just ask them. They have a great package for veterans. You can also look for them on social media. It's J. Perry Paving. Yeah, the Providence City Council President, Rachel Miller. This was a never again moment. I hope it's not a never again moment. What are they talking about? Folks, what also people need to understand is, like, the Rhode Island General Assembly, the Rhode Island elected officials, they can't afford to lose any more federal funding. They can't afford to lose this funding. So all this tough talk, when push comes to shove, they're not able to say, okay, then we're not going to take it. They're not like that. They need every nickel coming their way. They can't afford all that type of stuff. I know the northern part of the state doesn't have power. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if that's not third world, there's no storm. It's a beautiful Monday, right? Nice sunshine out. And parts of northern Rhode Island have no power, no warning. That's what it's like. If you study third world countries, Haiti, Cuba, out of nowhere, for no reason, they lose power, sometimes every day, hours at a time, days at a time. I have a family member that travels sometimes, certain countries in Asia. And, in the United States, businesses are open 5 days a week, 7 days a week. Sometimes they just, no apparent reason, they just close. You could have a dry cleaner. Sometimes they're open, sometimes they're not. Rhode Island, for no apparent reason, suddenly, they have no power. I think most of Central Falls was out, right? Part of Cumberland, I think, was out. Pawtucket. Now, I've heard Governor McKee was trying an experiment with the wind farms. The wind farms are a scam. The wind farms are the most expensive form of energy. The wind farms that Governor McKee has touted, they can't exist without government subsidy. Do you understand that? They can't exist without government subsidy. Now, in Rhode Island, they told all these companies, if you want to be in wind energy, you have to have all these unions. You got to have all the unions in, organized labor, got to deal with them. But then you're going to get all these state and government subsidies. Well, what is the point if now they're not going to get these government subsidies? They don't need government subsidies. And those windmills are the wind farms. They're atrocious. They're killing the whales. They're killing the fish. They're not even. Block Island was supposed to have all this free power. They're not doing that. I have no problem with people that have the land that want to do these solar farms. That's different. A friend of mine knows this guy that he hasn't paid an electric bill in 5 years. He lives in like South Kingstown. He's got this on his property, 2-3 acres, big solar farm. I have no problem with that. But you can't have wind farms in the inner city. Folks, we're going to be back for Road Patrol Live later tonight. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. And then, as always, visit our website, depetro.com. We'll see you later tonight on Road Patrol Live.